Can the Raiders be one of the most improved teams in 2025? ESPN's Bill Barnwell thinks so. We'll tell you what he thinks, plus a lot more, coming up on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 19th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome here, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you if you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. You know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. We shout him out. We appreciate him. Does great work. You can find him on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can find me on Twitter as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you at 707-654-4693. As we normally do, we'll close out the show hearing from you. Calls, texts, a lot of great feedback talking about the game on Saturday with the 49ers and the team in general. So we'll get to your calls. We'll get to your texts. We'll do that as we close things out. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, want to talk about who I think this week is going to be important for. I'm going to point out 2 guys on defense, 2 guys on offense. So this is going to be, I think, a very important week. Not necessarily the game on Saturday versus the Arizona Cardinals. We know that we probably won't see a lot when it comes to starters, if any starters at all. But there is a few guys that I think can really make some noise this week in practice as they get back to practice today, and also, maybe even solidify their spot on Saturday. But we'll break that down. We'll talk about that again. 2 guys from offense, 2 guys from defense. We'll talk about in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day. We'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that's Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. So, off top, I mentioned that the Raiders get back to practice today. Look forward to being out at the Intermountain Health Performance Center. And we're really blessed that this morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, as a matter of fact, we're going to get an opportunity to catch up with Assistant General Manager Brian Stark. So he's going to be made available. We'll be able to talk to him. And what a great time to talk to him, right? I mean, I know he's not John Spytek, the GM, but he's the assistant GM. And we're right around the corner from cut downs. We're right around the corner from the roster going from 90 to 53 men. So to be able to be in that room, talk to him, kind of get a little bit of his philosophy, knowing that him and John Spytek and Pete Carroll and company are all going to collaborate and figure out how to get this roster down to 53 men, how to figure out who's going to be on the practice squad, how to go through the waiver wire from other guys that get released, and who can add, pieces to the team, and how they can add more talent to the team. I think it'll be a really good opportunity for us to catch up with Assistant General Manager Brian Stark. And I believe this is the second time that he's actually met with the media. The first time, I didn't get a chance to catch up with them. It was either around the draft time, or it was a time where I was doing Joe and Q on ESPN Radio, and I couldn't be there in attendance. So to be able to be in that room and be able to, ask a couple of questions to the Assistant General Manager, I think that'll be really good. I do believe that the Raiders are going to broadcast that live on their Raiders YouTube page. And also, I know Raider Nation Radio 920, the morning tailgate, they'll have that live for you as well, so you can listen starting at 9 o'clock this morning. Then 10 a.m. to 12:15, practice will be open, and practice will be going on. Then we'll get to talk to a few players in the press conference room following practice. Practice will be indoors. There's no more practices that are open to fans, and I look forward to hopefully talking to another player like I've been doing consistently throughout training camp following practice. But that's all going to happen today. They'll be back at practice on Wednesday as well, and then Thursday. And then, Friday, it'll be an off day, and they'll be on to Arizona to take on the Cardinals for preseason game number 3, wrapping up the 2025 preseason. I also wanted to tell you about an article that I saw from Bill Barnwell on ESPN.com. Matter of fact, myself and Ari were talking about it on Monday, and he should be a guest on the radio show Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920 sometime this week, and we'll be able to get some more insights from him. I always like catching up with Bill Barnwell. He's got a piece on ESPN.com right now predicting NFL teams most likely to improve in 2025. So he rolled out a handful of teams: the New York Giants, the 49ers, the Jaguars, the Bears, and the Raiders. The Giants, they were 3-14, right? And their point differential in 2024 was minus 142. So far, what I've seen from Jackson Dart, I've liked, right? We've had so many conversations about the quarterbacks. I think Jackson Dart has been really good. I think he's making a push to maybe even start at the beginning of the season. The only problem for him is that they have a tough schedule. Matter of fact, projected strength of schedule by way of ESPN, toughest schedule in the NFL. Their first 4 weeks, they're the C's, the all C's: Cowboys, Commanders, Chiefs, and Chargers. And I'm not necessarily saying it's in that order, but those are the first 4 weeks. In week 5, they have their first game that I think is going to be a win against the New Orleans Saints. But man, they've got a tough schedule, so I could see them easing Jackson Dart into their lineup. But they've looked better with him under center, but they've got a tough schedule. The 49ers, they were just riddled with injuries last year, so they ended up 6-11. They have to be better, right? As long as they stay healthy, they'll be better. So that's easy. Jacksonville, they have a new head football coach there in Liam Cohen. They went 4-13 last year. -135 was their point differential in 2024. Their projected strength of schedule by way of ESPN, 9th easiest in the NFL. Obviously, they've got Travis Hunter, and we'll get to see him up close and personal when they come to Allegiant Stadium later on in the season. The Bears, Ben Johnson, supposed to make Caleb Williams look a lot better. They were 5-12 last year. They've got the 5th toughest schedule in the NFL, so we'll see what happens. But everyone's excited about Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams because he's supposed to turn Caleb Williams into the guy that he was expected to be when they drafted him number 1 overall. I don't doubt that at all. I think that there's going to be some good things in Chicago, but again, they've got a tough schedule. And that takes us to what we care about the most, the Raiders. Their record in 2024, as you know, 4-13. Point differential, -125. 2024 record in games decided by 7 or fewer points, 3-4, and projected strength of schedule by way of ESPN, 12th toughest in the NFL. So Bill goes on to say, over the past 3 seasons, with the Raiders cycling through coaches and quarterbacks while posting losing records, their various signal callers combined to rank 26 in total QBR. The Seahawks, with Geno Smith starting 49 of 51 possible games over that span, ranked 12th. So this is one of the big reasons why he expects the Raiders to be much improved in 2025. He goes on to say about Geno, he had the 2nd best off-target rate of any passer last season, trailing Joe Burrow by 1/10 of a percentage point. Just 1/10 of a percentage point. The Raiders quarterbacks combined to rank 26th. Smith ranked 5th in precise passing rate, measuring how often he hit his receivers in stride with easily catchable balls. Las Vegas quarterbacks ranked 25th. There are going to be far more viable opportunities for pass catchers, Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers this season. There are 2 numbers that Bill said he uses as a strong indicator for the Raiders to improve. One is their turnover margin, something that we talk about all the time. It wasn't good. Their -16 mark ranked tied for 31st, as only the Browns were at -22 were worse. That's how bad the Raiders' turnover ratio was in 2024. They were -16, ranked 31st. There's only 32 teams in the league, and the Browns were the worst. And we all know how bad the Browns were. Said teams with terrible turnover margins often regress back toward the mean following the season. He said since 1990, adjusting for the 17-game schedule, there have been 42 teams that posted a turnover margin in the -20 to -15 range. The following season, their turnover margin was collectively plus -2. In other words, they were almost exactly league average. Those teams improved their win total by an average of 2.5 victories per 17 games. So, again, it's a much deeper article than just that, but I want to give you the nuts and bolts of it from Bill Barnwell. Those are just a few of the reasons why he believes the Raiders will be much improved. The problem is, obviously, again, they play in the AFC West. We know 3 out of the 4 teams in the division went to the playoffs in 2024. So, does a team regress? Right? Does a team miss the playoffs? Are they going to build off of that? Are the Chargers and Broncos and Chiefs going to build off what they did? I've said it so many times. I think the Chiefs take a slight step back. They're not going to win 15 games in 2025. I don't believe that, right? But do they get better? Do the Chargers get better, right? I mean, those are still obviously questions that remain to be seen, but there's no doubt in my mind the Raiders will be a lot better. They won't go 0-6 in the division like they did a year ago, but I love the fact that he's talking about the turnovers. And the reason why I really wanted to bring that up is because so far through 2 preseason games, what have we seen? 2 interceptions, 2 safeties coming up with interceptions, right? They are hunting the ball. That is something that they have to do a lot better than what they did in 2024. There was 33 fumbles that were on the ground in 2024 that the Raiders had a chance to recover. They came up with 3 out of 33. That is abysmal, right? So if they're going to create fumbles or there's going to be balls on the ground, they've got to come up with it as well. Turnovers are going to be key for this team. We know that the Raiders defense is going to be a little questionable, especially early on, especially if they don't get pressure on the quarterback consistently. But if you have a chance to create turnovers, you have to do it. That is the best way to get a short field and give your offense an opportunity to score. And I think this Raiders offense, that we've talked about many times, is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Chip Kelly has an opportunity to get very creative, and I think that he will. And man, I loved it. I used to love it when you'd see a turnover, then the immediate play after that, after the offense gets back on the field, was a shot to the end zone. I used to love that. I would love to see the Raiders getting back to that, right? And especially with Geno having the ability to take deep shots, that's another plus for Geno Smith, and especially since he is accurate on those deep balls. You get a guy like him and Dante Thornton on the same page. I mentioned it on Monday's show. They're going to do some really good things as far as I'm concerned. But, yeah, I definitely encourage you to go check out that article. I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, Bill Barnwell will be a guest on my radio show sometime this week. And, of course, I'll bring that sound to the podcast, anything that he has really good to say. Predicting NFL teams most likely to improve in 2025. You picked the Giants, the 49ers, the Jaguars, the Bears, and your Las Vegas Raiders. So who is this week going to be really big for? I pick out 4 guys, 2 guys on defense, 2 guys on offense. We break it down, explain why. We'll do it in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here on the show, and that is FanDuel. August 26th, write that down. It's officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your time. So, hey, maybe you think Ashton Jeanty is going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's a good reason, right? The offense is really going to go through him. There you go. You can fire off a shot there. Maybe you think Brock Bowers is going to be in the MVP race. We know that that's a quarterback race. Geno Smith, he could possibly be comeback player of the year. Maybe not. I'm not too sure. He did pretty well last year, so maybe that wouldn't be the case. Big Mike, how about that? Big Mike could become comeback player of the year because he didn't do hardly anything last year. He stepped away for the personal reasons. That's a perfect opportunity for comeback player of the year. So if they're using Big Mike like I think they're going to, that would be a good one. That's the one that I would take a shot at. Comeback player of the year. Let's call Big Mike. I'm going to go ahead and put that on wax right now. Right now, all you got to do is visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bet now because Futures Day is only one day. One day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. With this being the final week of the preseason, obviously the Arizona Cardinals game on Saturday is in Arizona. Looking forward to that. Preseason is going to get wrapped up. Then it's going to get down to, all right, what about this roster? 53 men. Then you got to put the practice squad together as well. Who's going to make it and who's not? So who's this week going to be really important for is what I want to talk about here in segment number 2. And, of course, I always love to get your feedback on that as well. Love to get, and I think this is a good conversational piece. So 707-654-4693. Make sure you get your calls and texts. We'll definitely deep dive into this coming up on tomorrow's show. But I'm going to give you 4 guys. 2 guys on offense, 2 guys on defense that I think are going to be in for a big week or could potentially be in for a big week. And, maybe they need to show how important they can be for this team to either make a roster spot or maybe even become a starter. So let's go ahead and start on the defensive side of things because I think that's where right now the most concern comes from for Raider Nation. Myself, I know I have some concerns when it comes to the defense. I'm going to start out with cornerback Kyu Blu Kelly. Right? Not because he might not make the roster. See, there's different reasons why this is going to be a big week. A lot of, guys are going to look at it, man, I got to have a big week, got to have a big game on Saturday to make the roster. Kyu Blu Kelly is going to make the roster. I'm not worried about that. So it's not this is going to be a big week for a roster, but instead he might earn a starting spot. Him and Darian Porter, the 3rd-round pick out of Iowa State, they're in a battle right now. And as Pete Carroll said on Sunday when he met with us, it's nothing Darian Porter's done wrong. It's just Kyu Blu Kelly is coming on strong. And I got to give that young man so much credit. I remember being in the indoor facility and him having a bad practice. It's about a week ago or so. And I remember I was telling Vinny Bonsignore, who was standing right next to me, man, he's not having a good practice at all. And all he's done since then is had good practice on top of good practice on top of good practice. He's stacking days. He's doing a really good job. And now he's making this competition at the starting cornerback spot across from Eric Stokes. He's making that competition really interesting. So again, Kyu Blu Kelly's not a guy I'm looking at that's on the roster bubble, but is he going to start or is he going to be, the next line of defense? That's why this week is big for him. And on top of that, remember, he's listed as the 3rd on the depth chart when it comes to the nickel corner. Well, he might not even have to worry about being the nickel corner because he might be the starter. But that leads me to my second guy, Darnay Holmes, right? He's listed 1st on the depth chart at the nickel corner spot. But I don't know if you saw and you were paying attention. I mentioned it to Lincoln Kennedy right before we jumped on the postgame show. Darnay Holmes was in the game late on Saturday. 4th quarter, late in the 4th quarter. When the 49ers scored their points to win the game, Darnay Holmes was on the field, right? I mean, when they kicked that field goal to tie the game and then they got another field goal to go ahead, he was on the field. So that tells me he's not battling for a starting position. He's battling for a roster spot. So who's going to earn that starting nickel? Could it be, Darnay Holmes? Could it be Caillou Blue Kelly? Could it be Greedy Vance? Is it other? Is it someone who ends up, on the waiver wire and the Raiders bring in? That's very intriguing to me. Because, again, Darnay Holmes is a guy that I identified early in the offseason, early in training camp, as a guy that I thought was going to hold that spot down, and then a guy like Greedy Vance was going to take it over eventually. But now it feels like Darnay Holmes is in a battle just for his roster spot, which, again, to me is a turn of events. I didn't see that coming. Darnay Holmes, in my opinion, did a good job filling in for Nate Hobbs when Nate was out last year. But now, again, when you see him in the game in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter in preseason game number 2, you understand, hey, man, his roster spot is not guaranteed. So that's why this week is really big for Darnay Holmes. So 2 cornerbacks on the defensive side of things. Caillou Blue Kelly, not because he's going to miss it out on his roster spot, because he might be a starter. And then Darnay Holmes, I think he's fighting for a roster spot. On the offensive side of things, 2 more veterans that I'm looking at. The first one is in the running back room, Raheem Mostert. Right? I feel like he should make the squad. He's a vet. He's a physical short yards runner, right? But he might need one more solid week of practice and maybe even some potential game time to prove it, right? This running back room has all of a sudden become really intriguing. You know what you have in Ashton Jeanty. There's no question about him. Samir White, I feel like, has solidified his spot as the number 2 running back behind Jeanty. After that, that's where the questions come in, right? Is it Sincere McCormick? Is it Raheem Mostert? Where does Dylan Lobby fit in there? I've been talking about him as a special teams guy, but how many running backs are they going to keep? I don't expect them to keep all 5. Do you? I would be shocked to see that. Is Sincere McCormick a guy that they try to put on the practice squad? Right? Mostert, the thing about Mostert where I feel like he's at an advantage is he's a veteran and he's a physical runner, especially in short yardage. And the Raiders don't do really well in the short yardage right now. They still struggle to pick up that short yardage. We saw it on Saturday with Ashton Jeanty taking extra opportunities to try to get into the end zone. Their short yardage running is not great. So that might be where he's able to really solidify his spot. He does do special teams. He's out there immediately, first run at it, first crack at it. You'll see him out there. But if they start looking at these younger guys and say, you know what? We can just go ahead and move forward with these guys. I could see Raheem Mostert being a somewhat of a surprise a release, right? When they signed him, they hadn't drafted Ashton Jeanty yet. So when they signed him, he was really running back 1. But we all knew that Ashton Jeanty was at the top of their wish list. But after they got him, and now that room is shaping up the way it is, could he end up being a casualty, right? We'll find out sooner rather than later. Again, I think that he makes the squad. I really do. But I don't think it's one of those where it's a no-brainer. Right? I'm very confident Caillou Blue Kelly will be on the roster. I'm not that confident when it comes to Raheem Mostert. I do think he makes it, but I think it's going to be a little dicey. And so this could be a big week for him just to prove his worth, maybe hit some special teams as well. And if he needs a little burn in the game on Saturday, so be it. Get a little bit more burn and solidify your spot. And the final one, I'm actually really surprised to say this guy's name, Ian Thomas. Tight end room, very talented. They've got some dudes in that room. And I've been talking about and giving Ian Thomas a lot of props, right? Brock Bowers, Big Mike, Ian Thomas. Man, those are guys, you're going to hear Ian Thomas's name. And ever since then, and I got a chance to catch up with him one-on-one after practice one day, he's been putting some balls on the ground, right? And you just can't do that, right? He's an 8-year vet. He knows better. Saturday, he had a really bad drop, but he just has to do better. So this week is one of those where he's got to go into practice, and I think he's got to have a hell of a week. And I think he's got to have some really good burn in the game as well. And he can't think about those drops. He's just got to go out there and play good ball. He's a very talented dude. I think he could be used. Again, he's not a guy that is going to get a volume of catches, but he could be a nice change of pace when it comes to the tight end spot. He's obviously a good blocker. He's been around the league for a while. He's healthy. He could be a very talented dude, but man, you can't put balls on the ground. When you get your opportunity, you've got to take advantage. And unfortunately for Ian, on Saturday, put a ball on the ground that just can't happen, right? And when you have a room that has Brock Bowers, Big Mike, Ian Thomas, Kadir Ishmael, Albert O. I say Albert O because I guarantee I'll mess up saying his last name. Carter Runyon. That's a very talented room. Do they keep 3 tight ends? Do they keep 4 tight ends? Right? What are they going to do? Right? Maybe Ishmael is a guy that they end up putting on the practice squad. That's a possibility. Right? But I think Ian Thomas needs to have a really big week because, again, when he's had opportunities, you're not going to get a lot from the tight end position. You think you're going to get a lot of balls your way? You're going to see Big Mike get some balls like you saw him get one down there by the goal line on Saturday. That was great. And then, of course, Brock Bowers is going to get fed early and often. When you get an opportunity, you got to take advantage of the opportunity. So Ian Thomas is another guy I'm looking at that I feel like needs to have a really big week just to solidify his spot. So those are the four guys that I'm looking at: Caillou Blue Kelly, Darnay Holmes, both cornerbacks on the defensive side of things, and on the offensive side, running back Raheem Mostert and tight end Ian Thomas. But what says you? Who do you think needs to have a week of practice, a really good week of practice, and even potentially a good game coming up on Saturday? Let me know your thoughts. 707-654-4693. We'll actually hear from you as we close out the show. We'll do that next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can get extra food, drinks, merchandise. You can even invite a bigger group to go with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming Major League Baseball games. Whether you're an A's fan, a Giants fan, a Dodgers fan, or a Yankees fan, you can get to any of the games through Gametime, official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Again, hope to hear from you, and we'll put on tomorrow's show, who do you think needs to have a really big week, right? I rolled out 4 different guys in segment number 2, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. But what says you? Who do you think needs to have a big week to solidify their spot on the roster? Would love to get into that conversation with you coming up on tomorrow's show. But let's go ahead and start off with a text from Skylar in New Jersey. He says, "Hey, Q. Skylar from New Jersey, after watching the preseason game against the 49ers, I did see a lot of improvement from our starters. I thought the tackling was much better than Seattle, and our offense has potential. The negative I take away was our pass defense. I thought we did a bad job defending the pass, and we let the 49ers receivers get open far too many times. This team has potential, but execution will be the key to 2025. Thanks, Q, and always, Raiders." That's from our guy Skylar in New Jersey. And yeah, the defense, I think overall, as I talked about it quite a bit on my radio show on Monday, that was everyone's big concern, right? If the pass rush doesn't get home, guys are running wide open, especially in the middle of the field. The secondary is not doing what the secondary needs to do. So the safeties in the corners need to communicate. The safeties and the linebackers need to communicate better, but they've got to tighten that up. Somehow, some way, they've definitely got to get that and tighten it up in a major way, because then you're in a situation where you're in shootouts and games, and far too many times you're not going to win that shootout. It's just not going to happen. I'm looking at the Raiders to get, they averaged 18 points a game last season. If they can get around 24, like another touchdown or another 6 or 7 points, whatever the case may be, if they can get around 24 or 25 in 2025, I think they're going to have a good chance of winning games, but their defense is going to definitely have to complement them. There's no doubt about that. Middle of the pack defense, I'll take that. The much improved offense, you're going to win some games. So thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you. Up next, got a call from ABA Ivan Davis. He's calling to give his thoughts on the game and shares a few of his positives and a couple concerns as well. Here he is, ABA Ivan Davis.
What's up, Q? This is ABA Ivan Davis. Just finished watching the 49er game. Just to give you my take on it. It was a better performance. A lot of work to do. Typical 49er offense. There's a lot of misdirection. They didn't seem to adjust to that. My concerns is how much we give up on the run. And the Niners do this to everybody, but these were their backups. This wasn't McCaffrey. Okay, and so that's a little concerning. How many yards we're giving up right now? Okay, with 3 games left. Okay, on the best thing we did, we tackled extremely, extremely well. I didn't see any missed tackles out there. If they missed one, let me know. Okay, but I didn't see it. Okay, so we did well there. Carter Bradley looked more human this time, although he still looks good. So your assessment is correct. He's probably the 3rd string. but barely, because Aiden O'Connell looked a little bit better than last week, but not that much better. Okay, but again, a little credit goes to San Francisco. That is a really good defense. They're generally not out of position, so you can't force balls in there like Cam Miller did and like Aiden did. Okay, because they're going to be in position. Saleh is one of the most disciplined defensive coaches in football. They don't make mistakes. They make very few mistakes. And we force balls when we shouldn't have. Okay. He's a super defensive coordinator. Okay. But, anyway, other than that, offensive line also did, better this week. You see what Aston Genty can do. And he finally took an NFL hit to come out the game. So I've been waiting on that. I'm glad he got that in preseason and not in the regular season. So he can take more care on when to run over somebody. Okay, and get lower or whatnot to try to avoid those hits if he can. Okay, but anyway, but with that being said, he did truck the safety. That was nice to see. Overall, it was I think it was a good performance. Preseason doesn't count. Yeah, we lost the preseason game, but so what? Okay, let's just get to the regular season. This is all about getting work here. And it looks like we got that, and we made some improvements from last week to this week. Now let's just improve again from this week to next week, and let's go to the regular season. Anyway, go Raiders.
ABA, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. It's good to hear from you. And I do believe the Raiders did better in week 2 as opposed to week 1. There's no doubt. The 49ers, to their credit, are a really good team. Even if their starters weren't playing, they still have a lot of talent, right? Offensively and defensively. We know that. And, of course, Kyle Shanahan's a really good offensive play caller where it comes to scheme and is able to, get a lot of misdirection and crossing routes that just find ways to get guys open. And that's what happened on Thursday at the joint practice. That was my biggest takeaway, is that there was a lot of guys that were open just by the way that they were, running their routes and like I said, their misdirection that they're using, magic tricks in the backfield was what I like to call it. It's a good measuring stick, though, as far as I'm concerned, of where the Raiders are and where they need to be. And I'm sure that Coach Carroll saw it on film. He's going to focus on that this week. Last week, they were focusing on tackling, and the tackling was a lot better. Coverage, not so much, right? So there's that, but the 49ers, man, this is the part of the defense that really concerns me with the Raiders. The 49ers had about 4 or 5 guys that averaged double-digit catches. And I don't mean like number of catches. I mean yards per catch, right? They were averaging 14 yards per catch, 12 yards per catch, 10 yards per catch. Like, that can't happen. Multiple guys. They had at least 3 or 4 of those guys that were getting, double digits when it came to yards per catch. That just can't happen. But thanks so much for the call. Like I said, it's always great to hear from you. Up next, got a text from Tim in Oregon. Hey, Q, it's Tim from Oregon. I want to start by recognizing that I know it's preseason, but 23 points and 19 points first 2 preseason games. Last season, scoring 20-plus points was impossible. Knowing what you know about this current projected roster and assuming a relatively healthy team, do you think this team is capable of scoring 25-plus points this season? We know less than 25 points a game will probably result in the 4th-ish wins again. Thanks for the platform, Q. That's Tim in Oregon. And, yeah, Tim, I wouldn't be too concerned about how many points they're scoring right now. They haven't played a full game. Can you imagine what Ashton Genty is going to be looking like in the fourth quarter when an offensive line has been leaning on a defensive line all game and Ashton's been running downhill and they've had to try to tackle him 20, 25 times? Like, I just imagine what it'll be like then. These guys haven't played a full game. So I wouldn't worry about the points scored right now. They're not putting any kind of real film out there. As far as scoring 25-plus points, I think that'd be a good spot, around 24 or 25. That's something that they weren't able to do. 24 points per game last year would have had them as the 10th highest in the league. 10th. That's where Denver was. Denver scored 24-plus points a game last season, and they ended up in the playoffs. So, and I know Denver has a really good defense, but they were able to score 24 points, and that was the 10th highest. So if the Raiders can get to around 24, I'll take that, because 18 is not going to cut it, right? These are not the old, 85 Bears and the early 2000 Ravens teams where, they were winning games 10-3. Like, you're not going to do that anymore in the National Football League. So if they get to 24, that's giving themselves a chance. If the defense is worth the salt and middle of the pack, I'll take that. That's you're going to give yourself a chance to win. Look, the Raiders defense, even though they were riddled with injuries last year, still was about 15th. If they're around that area, 15 out of 32, that's going to give themselves a chance. I'll take it. So thanks for the text. And like I said, I wouldn't worry about the points per game in the preseason. It's all about what they do week 1 starting in New England. Up next, got a call from Grim Raider. He's calling to talk about the Raiders offensively and defensively and what he feels like this team needs to do. Here he is, Grim Raider.
Hey, Q, what up, man? It's me, Grim Raider, a.k.a. the Op Punisher Raider from VA, Fredericksburg to be exact. Anyway, I was just, first of all, I wanted to give you and Ari a shout-out. Keep doing your thing, man. I'm proud of y'all, for real. You guys are everyday listen. Whether it's the first of the day or middle or at the end. Every day listen, for real. Anyway, I want to get to the point. I know I don't have much time. I just want to keep this sweet and simple. I heard you before you mentioned that the offense, if they can play and score a certain amount of points, and that defense, all that defense has to be is like the middle of the pack defense. Or vice versa. Like if the defense can shut it out and the offense is in the middle of the pack, that this team is trending in the right direction. And I have hopes that I just got a good feeling that it will be. But I just got done listening to your squad show, which also I'm fond of, by the way. I'm proud of y'all for putting that together. You guys are, making it that number 1 spot. I just feel like if that middle of the field can get tightened up a little bit, and some of the stuff needs to be cleaned up, and turnovers, that's another thing that you guys mentioned, and I'm totally on board about those turnovers, man. That could sway the whole momentum of the game, and that could easily determine whether it's a win or a loss. If we can somehow shut it down or turn over the ball, fumble, interception, whatever, just win, baby. And that's what I'm looking for. I want that deep threat, Dante Thornton Jr. or Trey Tucker, I don't care who it is, Brock Bowers, all the way down the field, take the top off, and also you can't box them in with Ashton Genty, pick your poison kind of thing with the offense. I got a good feeling about this offense, man. For real. I'm loving what I'm seeing. We're in the preseason. I know it's just preseason, but you just look for those pops, and you look for the flashes, and I'm seeing them. I'm seeing them, man. And little by little, I'm looking forward to the next preseason game, but more so the actual first game. Anyway, man, I'm rambling on. I just want to say, I'm really psyched. I'm really pumped up and amped up. I'm ready, man. Let's just go out there and win, baby. Just win, baby. Raiders, go.
Remember Mr. Grimm? Remember, what was it? What was my man? Warren G. Remember Mr. Grimm? Woo! Hey, now you know. Inhale, exhale with my flow. One for the... Okay, you get it. remember Mr. Grimm? Okay, maybe you don't. Anyway, I think the offense is going to be really good, and thank you for the call. We've seen a small sample size, but I do believe this Raiders offense will be fun to watch, right? The fact that you could put the ball in the belly of Ashton Genty on 3rd and 5 and feel confident that you're going to pick it up, or you have a guy like Geno Smith that feels like he can throw the jump ball to Brock Bowers when he's one-on-one, right? And doesn't mind taking a deep shot to Dante Thornton. Like, that's fun just talking about. I definitely think that they're going to be fun offensively. The vertical passing game, I believe, is going to be back in the Raiders offense, something that we haven't seen for quite a while. They just need to get on the same page. So, I think that everyone's pretty amped up for the season, and week 1 versus New England Patriots will be a nice test on the road before they return home for their season home opener, Monday Night Football, against the L.A. Chargers. So, Grim Raider, thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. Got time for a couple more. This one's a text from Andrew in Vegas. Hey, Q, it's Andrew from Las Vegas. New booty texter. You've been pretty clear all offseason that you expect about 8 to 9 wins, which would be a great first year under Pete Carroll and company. I agree. That'd be a nice step in the right direction. Las Vegas bookmakers have the win total at 6.5, which is only 1 win less than your prediction. Those same bookmakers have also released every point spread for every game on the schedule. And guess what? They have the Raiders favored in just 3 games. Yeah, 3. Titans, Jags, and Browns. The math ain't mathin'. Those odd makers are typically spot on when it comes to making odds. So I hope this is just an obvious oversight on their end, and the 6.5 win total will be closer to reality when it's all said and done. I'll be making my first trip to the East Coast to catch the opener in Foxborough. Can't wait for the season to get started. All right, that's all I got. Keep up the good work. Raider Nation really appreciates all the hard work you and Ari put in for us. Apologies in advance for the long text. That's Andrew in Las Vegas. I love it. Apologies in advance, even though it's at the end of the text. It's all good, though. Yeah, I appreciate you. You know, the thing is, outside of like a couple years, the Raiders have done a really good job of going over the win total. For years, they would always go over. The bookmakers would always put them at 6.5, and they would go over it, and it wasn't even close. So I think that they'll be fine. I definitely believe that they'll go over that 6.5. I think 8 or 9 is absolutely fair. And if you get to 8 or 9 in December, you're giving yourself a chance, especially if it's early December. You're giving yourself a chance. So I think they'll be fine. Pete Carroll hasn't had a season that he's won less than 7 games. So, I mean, let's just use that as a measuring stick, right? I feel like you can at least give them 7 wins off top just on the strength of that. And then, you know, get them another victory, doubles what they did last year, and maybe put one more for a cherry on top. Why not? So I do think 8 to 9. I still stick to that. I would love to see 10 or 11, but I still think 8 to 9 is very reasonable for Pete Carroll in year 1. Thanks so much for the text. I appreciate you. Let's close things out with a call from Raider X. He's calling to talk about a few concerns he has with this Raiders team, and a lot of it is surrounding youth. Here he is, Raider X.
Hey, Q, this is Raider X. Just wanted to call over yesterday's podcast and also recapping the game. You know, overall, you can see the progress. I'm excited about the youth. Obviously, the offense is making leaps and bounds. We kind of flipped the script from last year. Just some concerns. You know, when you have youth, you have inexperience and you have communication. And what concerns me is, you know, on offense, you know, you obviously have some, you know, some big-time players and big-time, you know, capabilities from when you have Geno Smith, you have Brock Bowers, you know, and then you have Ashton Genty. On defense, you have Max Crosby and guys. You know, we need to have, you know, something else that pops. That's, the secondary is concerning. You know, we need you need two guys. I mean, yeah, you look like Jamal Adams might be a big spark plug, but that secondary, besides Chen, the corners just aren't looking. They're inconsistent. Just really looking for something on the flip side. Really wanted to sit there and put a big mention. I have this Colin Johnson receiver. Raiders got to keep him. I think that they have a really good prospect there. This individual is going to be, I mean, I think he's a gem. I think if they go big, just like they're having, you know, the whole thing about these physical specimens out there, it's going to be a big plus. But they need to go grab somebody that at least has a little bit of burn. So hopefully they're looking at the wire and there's a switcheroo there. So there's going to be some big decisions. Offense is going up. Defense, they need something on the backside. Put a little something on the backside. All right, Raider X out.
X-Man, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Yeah, the secondary, the youth, the fact that they haven't really defined themselves as the starters yet is a question, right? I mean, at one point it looked like it was going to be Stokes and Porter. Now it's Stokes and maybe Caillou Blue-Kelly. I mean, nobody has really stepped up and said, this is my job. I'm holding it down, right? Porter has done everything he can, but he still has room to grow, right? He's got to be able to take better angles. He's got to be able to, make better tackles. I mean, there's a lot that he has to do, but also he's young at this position. Hasn't played it for very long, right? Remember, he was a converted wide receiver, so there's that. Stokes is trying to get his career back on track. I mean, there's a lot of questions when it comes to the starting corners, so they're going to have to really step up. The thing is, a Raiders defense led by Patrick Graham always depends and is really banking on the fact that the defensive line is going to get home. When they get home, it makes the other guys behind them, it makes their job a little bit easier, right? Obviously, you guys don't have to cover for very long. Well, the problem is, through 2 preseason games, you haven't seen very much pressure on the quarterback. Now, again, I'm not going to get, bent out of shape about it because it's a preseason game. Max Crosby has played about 10 snaps, maybe a few more than that, but you get what I'm saying. He hasn't played hardly any. Malcolm Kuntz has played very sparingly. We still got to see where he is coming back from a torn ACL and where he is as far as his health. Tyree Wilson, I thought he did a good job on Saturday. Really didn't talk about him much, but thought he did a good job, so he's showing some improvement. And, other guys have to step up as well, but this is going to be a defense that's based off that defensive line getting home. they get home, then the linebackers will do a better job. The corners will do a better job. And the safeties, as we've seen through 2 weeks so far, coming up with interceptions, they'll come up with more of those turnovers. So, I'm not too worried about it right now, but, we'll see. As far as Colin Johnson goes, he just hasn't been able to pop since he's been in the league. And it bothers me because, look, I was covering him while he was at Texas. He was there from 2016 to 2019. And his junior year, 2018, he was the dude. 68 catches, 900-plus yards, 7 touchdowns, played 13 games. Like, he was the guy. It just hasn't translated since he got into the league. And I root for guys. I never root for guys to fail. That's the thing. It's too hard to be successful. But I like him. He's got good size. He's got good hands. But for some reason, his game just has not translated to the National Football League. I mean, again, this is a fifth-year pro, right? So I gut feeling, if you had to, give me the truth serum right now, I don't think he makes the squad. Does he make the practice squad? Possibly. I don't think he makes the 53-man roster. I just don't see it. We'll see how it all plays out. Maybe he's one of those guys. Maybe he's the answer to the question I threw out there. Who's this week really big for? Maybe it could be a guy like him. Shedrick Action Jackson could be a week for him as well, right? A couple wide receivers that I believe have ability but are pretty low on the depth chart. So what are the Raiders going to do with guys like that? Again, want to hear from you at 707-654-4693, just like we heard from Raider X. Thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. But give us your feedback. What do you think? Who is this week really big for? We'll talk about it more coming up on tomorrow's show as we hear from you, your calls and texts. Of course, we'll have more news and notes. Excited about the opportunity to talk to the assistant GM, Brian Stark, today. That's going to be fun. That'll be around 9 a.m. So anything good from that we'll bring to the show as well tomorrow. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.